Good morning, everyone. We will begin today's class. I hope I'm audible properly.
Yes.
Like my
Yes.
oh, great. So let's begin today's class. Gently close your eyes. Back neck straight. Just start observing your breath. Your natural breath as it is. And allow your mind to settle. Just observing this natural process of the body. And slowly begin to deepen your breath. Long, slow, and deep inhalations. Long, slow, and deep exhalations. Make sure that your entire body is relaxed. And mentally prepare yourself for chanting Om 3 times, followed by 3 Shantis. After your next exhalation, inhale deeply for Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Join both your palms together in front of your chest and rub them together. Place them over your eyes. And slowly, while blinking and looking at your palm, come back with a smile. And namaste to everyone. So, we'll begin today's session. First thing, any doubts from the previous sessions? Any doubt? Yesterday, whatever we discussed, or if you watched any previous video and you thought you needed to clarify something, so you can just unmute yourself and ask. Okay.
No, everything is clear for now.
Okay, great. Okay. So today our topic of discussion is going to be the origination of yoga. Okay. So when I took the first class and we were talking about philosophy and origination of philosophy, why there were specific philosophies that existed. In the same way, today our question is why did yoga originate? Okay. So before working on the origination of yoga, trying to understand that, first thing that you need to understand about yoga is that you are not learning something that is new. Okay. All of the information, everything that you will learn in yoga is actually old information. We are not discovering anything new when we study yoga. We're trying to understand and break down the information that was given to us in the past and trying to see how we can apply that information in our day to day life to enhance our life. Okay. So when somebody comes in yoga, they do not, they are mainly coming to yoga because they understand that it is a way of enhancing their day to day life. Yoga is something which you do when you leave behind everything, which you do when you are cut off from all the external circumstances or situations that you are facing. Yoga is something you do to exist in those things and make your life better, make your way of dealing better in those same situations. Okay. So earlier I was taking approach A that didn't work for me. So I came to approach B, which is yoga for us. Right now we're studying yoga. So we came to approach B yoga and then we started experimenting by applying the things that we are taught to see how the same situation when it comes up the next time, how we are dealing with that. So we are learning, and more than learning, we're trying to disintegrate something which is already there and disintegrate in a manner which can serve us. Okay. So you're not discovering anything new. But the discovery in this entire process will be how you will apply it in your life. Okay. So you will keep discovering what works best for you. And that is what your entire life is actually. You're trying to experiment with different approaches and see what works for you. So one of the approach is yoga. And it's a very spiritual approach. So it wouldn't enhance you just on one level. It will enhance your life in a holistic manner. Okay, yesterday we discussed that perfection in action was yoga. So, this perfection, when I am doing one thing at a time, that will do what? It will enhance my life not only on a physical level, not only will my output be better, my mind will be more relaxed and calm, my emotions would be more in control. Yes, so all of these things. So it is giving you a holistic approach to manage your life, at least before the point where you have reached the spiritual, you want to adopt it for a spiritual purpose. Before that, at least trying to make the most out of your life, I think so. Okay. So, how did it originate? So, there are two perspectives that come in when we come to the discussion of the origination of yoga. One is the psychological perspective. Okay. So, you can just make like origination of yoga, you can write above, and then you can divide it into two. One is your psychological perspective, and the second one is your mythological perspective. Okay. So these are the two perspectives. I will write this down in the chat box also. Okay. And under the psychological, we have further division. Two divisions are there. So one is your Sukha Pravarti, or I can say enhancement of happiness. And Dukha Nivritti, this is one point only. Sorry, that is Sukh. Sukha. Sukh. That is Sukh. Okay. And Dukha Nivritti. Or eradication of suffering. Okay. And the second one, so Sukha Pravritti and Dukh Nivritti come together. This is one point. Second thing is curiosity. Okay. So under psychological, we have these two divisions. So I'll just spell Sukha Pravritti and Dukh Nivritti. So SUKHAPravritti. Okay. Sukha Pravritti and Dukha Nivritti is DHUKHANIVRITTI, or eradication of suffering. And the second one is curiosity. Okay. So let's first discuss the first point, Sukha Pravritti, Dukha Nivritti. Okay. So all of us are over here because there was some preset notion that if you do yoga, you will experience a sense of bliss, or you will experience a sense of calmness. Yes. So nobody comes in yoga if there is no suffering. Okay. If they don't experience suffering, nobody will come into practices like yoga. Why? Because already my life is giving me all the happiness that I need. There is so much happiness for me in the material things that I will not come to this side. Okay, where it is so boring. Yeah, we're studying philosophy, and in philosophy we will study, okay, yam niyam, they are very tough. Yes, asana practice as you are doing, you will experience body pain as your body opens up. Pranayam, it's hard to sit. Meditation, hard to sit. Follow the practice. It's a very boring practice. It requires a very great push for you to stick to it. So that is why a lot of us learn about yoga, and then because that push is now, it fades away, we leave our practice of yoga. Because the push of suffering, there is no bigger push in life than the one that causes suffering. Because human brain, even according to science, is wired in such a way to seek pleasure, and more than seeking pleasure, it is wired to avoid pain. Okay. So once you get some suffering in your life, it can be in any form, you come into practices like yoga because you, there is this notion where we think that this practice will lead us to a point where at least the happiness or calmness that I experience will last for a long period of time, or it won't go away that easily as if somebody compliments me, my mood gets happy, and if somebody says something, criticizes me, or says something bad about me, my mood immediately drops, yeah, or dips down. This happens to all of us. We experience this up and down in emotion in our day-to-day life. Okay, so the first reason why somebody thought that okay, there should be a spiritual practice or there should be a practice to attain happiness is because they wanted to enhance their level of happiness and they wanted to get rid of the suffering of life. As human beings, as people, or in fact, not even people, like as I can say, as we led our lives, we realized that suffering was permanent. No matter what you do, you see that every day, because of some reason or the other, you are faced with something that causes you suffering. So people realize that okay, suffering was very common, but the happiness that I get, it goes away. Yes. So how do I get out of this? First thing was get out of these mood swings, this anger, frustration, irritation. These are things we face every day. How do I get out of this? And what is permanent bliss? Like when we talk of permanent bliss, what is that thing that will last forever? What is that state of mind? What is that state of experience which will give me lasting happiness? Because until now, I was programmed in such a way that, okay, I was taught that if I attain this, then I will be happy. I attained that thing, but then I was sad again. Then I thought, if I attain that, then I will be happy. Then I attained that thing. And after a while, I got bored. And after that, I saw that sorrow came back again. So, attaining something, attaining a point which will last forever, okay, which will be a permanent bliss for me, which won't pull me back into a state where I am in sorrow. Yes, so that was your first reason. Now, I'm using the word bliss and not happiness because happiness and sorrow are two sides of the same coin. If I am experiencing happiness, that means that I will also experience sorrow. So both of them go hand in hand. They are
Ma'am, your
duality.
voice was cracking. Can you repeat it?
Which part?
Just the last part, last 30 seconds.
Okay. So I was saying that there was a need to look for a permanent source of happiness, which the term used for that is bliss and not happiness. Okay. So happiness and sorrow are two sides of the same coin. When you are experiencing happiness, you will experience sorrow. You will have both experiences. But what a yogi aims to do is come out of this duality of life. Okay, if there is night, there is going to be day. Both things come together, both things coexist together. And that is what they wanted to break. Okay, that is what you also have to come out of eventually. When you sit in meditation, your focus is not attaining happiness. So some days what happens is students come and they have very good meditation days, yes, but then they miss the point. As we discussed yesterday, samatvam yoga uchyate. So that neutrality, balance is what yoga is. It doesn't encourage you to go in and delve into pleasure. Yes, on an initial level, yes, we will try to at least enhance the experience of whatever we are. Like if I am consuming something, yeah, in my day-to-day life. So first stage is that I will become a good bhogi. Right now I'm a rogi, I am ill. Then the second step will be I will become a bhogi, where at least the pleasure that I'm getting, I'm able to understand how I'm able to make the most out of that pleasure. And eventually I will come in that yogi stage. So yogi aims to come out of both happiness and sorrow and understands that if one is there, the other one is going to come by default. So rise above them. Okay, and that is the point where you experience bliss or something permanent, something that will last for a long time. Varna, you will be stuck in the cycle. Okay, so one reason is this. Second reason why yoga, a practice like yoga came up was because there was a lot of curiosity. Okay, so when you see something new, it's human nature. Whenever we experience or see something new, what we do is we want to understand that. Okay, and even that happens, like if we meet someone new, we try to get to know them, try to understand them. So our brain is wired, once again, our naturally our brain is wired to try to explore and understand everything around us. It wants to make sense of everything around it. And the main task that your brain is like doing all the time is problem solving. So if you see that you do not have any problem to solve, then sometimes people say, oh, I was feeling very sad that day. Why is that happening? Because on a biological level, the mind is such a way that it wants to solve problems. Okay, so the second reason why yoga came in was because there was a lot of curiosity around topics like what is this suffering, what is the nature of suffering, what is my purpose in life, why am I here? Because human beings understood that okay, the material world is around me, everything is around me, but there is something more. There is something more which I cannot exactly place my finger on, but I experience it every day. So the human mind wanted to understand what, what are all of these things. So you see that the practices of yoga originated, and to reach the point where you come to that place where there is perfection in your action and there is balance in your mind. Okay, all of these are also ways of reaching to that point where you achieve that stage. Okay, so you practice asana, pranayama, all of these practices will lead you over there. Okay, so second reason was the curiosity that we had, and all of us like had this, everybody who is over here in fact has this notion or has this understanding, I would say it's more like intuitive understanding, that they're here for a reason, and that their life has a greater purpose than dealing in the day to day household interactions that we have. Yes, so in order to understand that, so all of you in the class are here because of what? The second reason of yoga, curiosity. Okay, so when I was talking about sukh and dukh, so trying to increase your happiness and trying to eliminate the dukh, then there are three types of dukh that have been talked of, or sufferings that have been talked of. So once you become aware of them, you're at least able to categorize which one you are experiencing. Okay. So once I discuss all three of them, so today's homework for all of you is that whatever you experience starting after your philosophy class till tomorrow's philosophy class, just try to understand which one of those you are experiencing, which is the suffering that you are experiencing. So the three types of sufferings are called tapatraya. Okay, so I'm writing that down in the chat box. Okay, tapatraya is spelled as Tapatrayas. Tapatraya. Okay, so the first one which comes in this is Adi Bhautik Dukh. Okay, I'm going to write that down. So spelling is Adhi. Bhautik is Bhatik. U T I K A. Adi Bhautik Dukh. D U K H A. Dukh. Okay. Adi Bhautik Dukh. This is the first. Okay. So on a physical and mental level, like all these dukhs you can experience on a physical and mental level both. So what happens is when there is suffering caused in my life because of the external world around me. Okay. So for example, I can say that maybe I have a conflict with someone that I'm really close to. Then that there is suffering that is caused in my mind, yes. And even on a physical level, that suffering shows up. My respiration changes, my heartbeat changes when I'm in a conflict with someone. So that kind of suffering, when this is the type of suffering you're experiencing, it is adi bhautik dukh. So disease that comes into your body, that is also adi bhautik dukh. Disease, infections, maybe I'm going somewhere and a dog bites me. Yes. So all of these things are what external things that are affecting me, external world around me that is causing that pain or suffering. Okay. So first one is this. Now the second dukh that we experience is adi bhautik. So adi bhautik is A D H I B H A U T I K A. Adi bhautik dukh. D U K.
For both, you are written Adi Bhautik. For first one also Adi Bhautik and second one also Adi Bhautik.
Sorry.
Adi
I'm
Daivik.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Adi David. D A I V A I K A. Adi David. Sorry. Or I can say this is the suffering that is caused by supernatural things. Okay, so example for this is like earthquakes that come in. Yes, so earthquakes are coming, or maybe in astrology, if you go, so they see the planetary movements, and those planets as they move, they cause a difference or an impact on our mood, on a bodily level, on our experiences. So all of these are come under adi devik dukh. Okay, or this sufferings that are caused due to supernatural reasons. Then the third one that we have is adhyatmic dukh. So adhyatmic is A D H Y A T M I K A. Adhyatmic. So this is the third type of dukh. So first one was coming from the world around me. Yes. Second one was coming out of factors which were like not in my control at all. They were like I can say supernatural things that were happening around me. So they were in nobody's control, really. So, but the third one is the internal sadness or suffering that we face. So there is an inner conflict that is caused within us. Maybe our mind, it's a very common example, mind says something, heart says something else, and there is a conflict between both of them. Yes. So there is a lot of internal suffering that is caused within us when we come to adhyatmic truth. So uh, examples like it is very common in our day-to-day life, the adhyatmic dukh. Okay. somebody around us might be facing some disorder which is related to the mind, it will also have an impact on your body at the same time. So there are a lot of physical impacts also that we experience. Like if you're a very person, then you see that you're not able to sleep that well, or you're not able to sleep for that amount, fall asleep. And somebody who is in depression sleeps a lot. So all of these sufferings, which are caused due to internal conflict, yes, and lead to these diseases which have come up in the modern times, those will come under your adhyatmic look, because there is so much conflict, you're not able to understand how to navigate through those things. So they have a strong grip on you. So for at least Adi Bhautik, I can say maybe I can change my environment. Yeah. If I don't like someone, okay, I will avoid them. For just for the sake of understanding uh, my external world, okay, I will avoid them. Then Adi Bhautik, okay, so maybe I know that in a particular region they experience a lot of earthquakes. So for hypothetical purposes, we will assume that, okay, I will change my location. Okay. But how do you get rid of Adhyatmic Dukh? Because you cannot like shut off your mind. Yeah. So this is the Dukh that most of us, like we can connect a lot with this one. Most of us experience this. I'm not saying that depression would be prolonged, but sometimes we do experience short episodes where we are either very sad or very anxious. So this happens to all of us. Okay. So this is the third kind of look. So today, when you are going through your day, just try to categorize which suffering you are experiencing. So in order to elevate ourselves above all of these sufferings, a process was a process originated which was called yoga. Okay. So any doubts in so far in all of these things that we have discussed?
Can a person suffer three of the thing at a time, or only one suffering at a time? Like,
It's a mixture of all three
okay.
that goes on.
Mm.
Any
Yeah,
other doubt?
one thing I would like to ask. In the first one, it was like whatever sufferings we are getting from the external world. And then the third one is we are getting depressed or anxious, or it is also because of the outside world, right? So we get anxious, we get angry, or we are sad because of the outside world. So what is the difference between the first and third?
So first and third are different in the sense that the focus point is very different. So for example, in the first one, there is a disease that I have. That doesn't mean that I will go in depression because of it. Yes, sometimes what happens is that I have a disease, maybe I have fever. That doesn't mean that there is an inner conflict. Yeah. But in the third one, the suffering is internal. Like it isn't necessary that something external is happening over there, but because of the way in which I'm processing things, or the way in which I have set my mind to perceive a particular situation, that thing has more weightage in the third one. That thing causes a lot of suffering to me. In the first one, what is happening is something external to me is happening. Okay, so maybe somebody yells at me, shouts at me. So that makes me feel bad. But there is no conflict inside of it. It's not necessary, at least, that I have conflict inside of it. है ना? One, the origination point is very different. One is coming from inside, one is coming from outside, and then causing mental like fluctuation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, now it's clear. Thank you.
Any other doubts? Okay. So I'll move ahead to the second point. So the second point why all of this knowledge, like there was an origination, is something that requires a lot of belief. Yeah. So mythological perspective is also there. So one reason was all of these, like including all of these. Second one was that the point of origination of yoga is said to be Lord Shiva. Okay, he was practicing yoga and he attained the final goal, which was that state of mind, yeah, where there was no vrittis in the chitta, his mind was stable and there was perfection in his action. So the second reason is the mythological perspective that goes on, that okay, the point of origination of yoga was Shiva himself, and he passed down this knowledge from one person to the other, and that is how the knowledge came into our current life. So his first student was uh, Parvati ji herself. So there is a story that relates to this, like how it was passed down. So once Shivji attained the final goal, moksha, he got free from all the suffering. So he had to now. When somebody gains this knowledge and gains this, experience, they have this intense will to pass it down because they see that everybody around them is suffering. Yes, and everybody needs something to come out of their suffering. So what Shivji did was he passed this knowledge down to Parvati ji, his wife. In Guru and I can say this interaction, the Guru, when the Guru sits and the Guru starts talking, the role of the student is to listen, okay, and not only listen, understand that also, okay. So now, once he attained all of this enlightenment, he had a lot of information to pass down. So he called Parvati ji and he went on, like, and the student cannot go. Yeah, the student has to listen once the Guru is talking. So he was telling about yoga. Okay, this is how you do this, then this happens. So it was so long that Parvati ji slept. Okay, she was sitting over there and she slept over there only. What can she do? She wasn't able to listen to all of it. Her body was tired. It was a natural calling, so she dozed off. Now, when the Guru is giving the information, so he is just continuously in his own trance. Okay, so he did not notice. So, and the way in which the student is telling the Guru that the student is listening is by doing yeah, we also, like, when we listen to somebody, we also momentarily fill up the gaps by yeah, okay, go on. So that was the way in which she was also taking the information. So what happened was, this information was given when he was sitting by the riverside. Okay, so she slept. Now who will do this? Okay, so in the river there was a fish. Okay, and the fish animals are very intelligent. Okay, so the fish understood that there is a yogi who is giving knowledge. So, and you will see that even animals get very attracted to such places where the vibration is so good. And when the yogi is speaking, then the vibration is wonderful. Yeah, so the fish got attracted and the fish started listening. Then the fish saw that Parvati ji has slept. Okay, so the fish started doing in place of Parvati ji. Okay, and what happened was, Shivji then finished the entire information. Okay, and then by that time Parvati ji had woken. It so happened. So okay, great, everything fits. So Shivji turned and he said that, did you understand what I told you? So Parvati ji directly, honestly told him that she had slept in between. So then he got curious. He was just like, who is doing from your side? So then he saw that there was a fish in the sea. Okay. So then what happened was, in the Guru and Shishya parampara, or this whole setup, the Guru has to see the, I can say, the capacity of the student. So no Guru will give you, in earlier times, what used to happen was that even before becoming the student of that Guru, the Guru used to test the student and test his or her capability to attain that information. So now the fish just came like that and took all the information. She must have been capable. She was able to hold that information, but she had not taken the permission of the guru. Okay. So then he saw that there was a fish by the side and she was listening. So uh, he understood that she had taken all the information related to yoga. Okay. So then he was happy about it. Okay, somebody got that information. But also at the same time, there was a punishment attached to that same information that the fish received because she had to be punished for not taking permission. So the blessing that was given to the fish was that you will take human birth and be a propagator of this information. But the curse along with that was given was that when you will need this information the most, you will forget this information. Okay. So, okay, then time passed and a yogi was born. His name, he is very famously known as Matsyendranath. Okay. So Matsyendranath ji then passed down this information to his student Gorakhnath. Yes. And eventually the Nath cult, or the cult which is mostly associated with Hatha Yoga, is took place, and in modern times also we study about Hatha Yoga the most in place of Raj Yoga. All the other yogas with time they had I can say not passed down exactly as they were, but Hatha Yoga you will see is in most places maintained in its purity. So Hatha Yoga is associated with the Nath cult, and Gorakhnath was the founder of the Nath cult. So, and when he forgot, Matsyendranath forgot the information when he needed it the most, then Gorakhnath became his guru. From student, he became his guru, and then he was able to remember all of that information once again. So this is how the story goes in brief. I've told you, and that is how yoga was eventually passed down from one generation to the other. Okay. Any doubts in this? Okay. So I'll take that there are no doubts.
Yeah, it's clear. Yeah.
Okay. So let's end the class then for today. Okay. So everybody just straighten up your back and neck. Gently close your eyes and take a few breaths. Allow all of this information to seep in. And now take one deep breath. Inhale deeply. And exhale. Come back to your normal breath. We'll be chanting Om one time, followed by 3 Shanti. Inhale deeply for Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Join both your palms together in front of your chest and bow down. Remember any one incident from the past 24 hours that you are grateful for, and say a mental thank you. And now rub both the palms together. Place them over your eyes. And slowly, while blinking, and looking at the palm. Open up your eyes, come back to the smile. And namaste to everyone. I will see all of you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
If
you.
you're having,
Thank you.
just get those doubts, write those doubts down, and we can take them up in future classes. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
I will
thank
see all
you.
of you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.